So here I am ready to deconstruct my first ever Moog Mother 32 patch. I just unboxed this guy, I got it in the mail yesterday, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see the care that went into not even the synthesizer, but the packaging. I'll include some images of the various little things that they sent me in the box. There was this really nifty poster, which I've obviously already taped up, so I'll have to hunt around on the internet here and see if I can find you an image of the reverse, which is a cool little illustration of a happy synthesizer. It looks almost kind of like Grateful Dead art, like the bears at Terrapin Station or something. And there was this card suggesting that I register, and then on the back there's this neat schematic for all of the different controls on the front panel. And there was this little advertisement about a promotion they're running where you can win a free custom adorned Moog product. Even the power charger, the little wall wart, is kind of neat because it's got this detachable blade configuration that presumably allows for compatibility with the electrical standards of other countries. And the synthesizer itself is amazing. This is real wood here on the sides, all metal construction. I'm not 100%. Yeah, that's metal. The whole thing's metal. The knobs are amazing, real solid. All the switches are nice and solid. The rubber buttons are pretty cool. It did worry me a little bit that when I press one button, you can maybe see that there a little bit. Let's see if I zoom. There. If I wiggle this, yeah, that's probably not going to show up on the video, but it moves the other buttons adjacent to it a little bit. But I don't really know enough about that technology to let it worry me too much. It's just something I notice. So I got it out of the box. The oscillators sound amazing. The filter, as expected, is beautiful and buttery and amazing, and the resonance kind of bubbles it all up, spills it over the edges of the pot. It's actually a really intuitive layout. This is actually my first experience with any kind of semi-modular patching type synthesizer, and I dove right into it, no problem. And immediately I pretty much got a patch going. And it sounds pretty cool, it's quirky, but even without really knowing what I was doing, there was automatically quite a bit of variation potential, I suppose you could say, just through minor switch flipping and pot turning. And I'm now going to play that for you and jam on it a little bit and then break it down piece by piece. Hope you dig it. So there she blows, my first ever Moog Mother 32 patch. Quirky little weird kind of thing. It might have been inspired by this image that's on the back of the product catalog poster they sent with me. I think I'm that little blue guy in the right hand corner at the bottom. But yeah, I love this thing. This is great. It's got MIDI in, which is cool, so I can actually just tune some leads and basses and whatnot and play them with my digital piano that I use as a MIDI controller. And I don't know, I'm gonna go nuts with this pattern sequencer. This thing's great. It's a little complicated, it's a little menu divey. There's no type of LCD or whatever, so you gotta kind of refer to the manual and hold combinations of shift and whatever these little soft rubbery keys are. But I'll probably memorize it before too long. It's definitely not like back in the day when I used to fuck around with Boss little Dr. rhythms and Dr. samples and shit. That was nutty to try to figure out all that. And it's nothing like a Korg Electribe or any of that kind of gear. So I'm going to start unplugging cables and turning pots and show you how I arrived at this patch. First off, the oscillator, the VCO, is toggleable between a pulse wave and a sawtooth. And when I started building the patch, it was in square, it was in a pulse wave, which has this lighter, kind of nasally quality that's lacking the bottom end. And one of the first things I noticed I could do in terms of modulating the patch was throwing it into saw, which adds that rich bottom end. And then obviously in the pulse wave setting for the VCO, you have control over the pulse width. and the mix knob will turn between the VCO and either an external input, which I believe runs in through this patch bay, or noise if nothing's plugged in. And the presence of some noise in this patch is what gives it that bit of a percussive quality. Obviously, I don't need to explain to you what messing with the resonance and the cutoff of the filter does. But geez, that really sounds nice. Especially when you start monkeying with the decay and the attack. Fucking delicious. Clipping out a little here. And there's some VCF mod going on, which I do believe bear with me here. I'm new to this. Well, the saw wave is running out to a mult, which is split between controlling VCF resonance and VCO1's 1 volt per octave. And I've actually got the VCF running out to VCO linear frequency modulation. But I guess I don't have anything affecting the VCF mod. So I spoke too soon. But it is cranked up, and its polarity is positive, and the VCF mod source is the envelope generator. So that might be a good part of the reason why when I monkey with the attack and decay settings in conjunction with the filter cutoff, it will have such a dynamic effect. I don't quite understand what the VC mix does. That's something I'm going to have to explore a bit later and maybe do a little reading about. But that's pretty much the patch settings in terms of the pots. Now I'll explain to you what's going on with these cables over here. Spaghetti dinner. As you'll notice on the top of the patch bay, there's an in and out key, which clearly demonstrates that those inputs, those jacks rather, whose text is simply written in white, are inputs, and those which are in negative, written in black with a white outline, a white outlining square, are outputs. And the outputs are primarily on the right hand side of the patch bay, but they do kind of edge their way in here and there, such as on this 5th row down, they go all the way to the 1st row, the 1st column. And the same is true with the 6th row down, but then the last row, or the 7th row, the last row, the 8th row, there are no outputs. And then the 1st column, there's only one output, which is the noise source. So I've got the VCF running out, as I mentioned, to VCO linear frequency modulation. And we'll pull that plug, and I'll show you what it sounds like here. Kind of deflated the sound a little bit, it got kind of sloppy. I'll pull that out entirely. And I've got the LFO's square wave running out to the run stop feature. which might have been part of why hitting the run stop button didn't have the effect I thought it would in terms of stopping the sequence. So we'll pop that out now. Aha, and the sequence stops. Let me hit run. Exactly. Totally affected the tempo too. Let's pop that back in. That's amazing. The swing changed as well. And some weird behavior that was exhibiting when I had the LFO square wave out to the run stop in was when I hit the run stop button, it seemed to kind of like amend the pattern a little bit, like change the step length. Or like changes the swing somehow. I'm not really sure what's going on there. And it's a little bit difficult to hit it and come back in on beat, but it's kind of cool. So let's leave that plugged in for now so it doesn't monkey with the rhythm of the patch. Moving on, we have the VCO's saw wave, which we're currently not in right now. There's with saw. This is just the pulse wave. That's running out, like I said, to a mult, and the first mult out is running into the VCF's resonance, so we'll pop that out. Oh, the resonance was all the way down, so it's not really making a huge difference. Pop that up and show you what it sounds like with the... And I'll pull that out. Yeah, subtle difference. Presumably that made more of a difference when I was initially tuning the patch, but then I started playing with the pots and probably altered it quite severely. The second iteration of the mult is running out to the VCO's 1 volt per octave. This is probably going to make a pretty big difference. Yeah, it totally changes the octave and the timbre and everything. Plug that back in. Yeah, pretty drastic. So we'll leave that in for now. And that's pretty much the bulk of the patch, I guess. So that's what it sounds like with Mult 2 running out to VCO 1 volt per octave without being fed by anything. And here it is again with the saw wave. And here's pulling Mult 2's feed out of the VCO's 1 volt per octave. Pretty much the same. It just has that different initial slide, that descending attack difference when I pop it out. Listen here. And when I touch the end of the patch cable to the jack, it kind of has an effect. Even if it's not plugged in, just the connectivity. It's kind of interesting. So I'll pop that out and lower the frequency so it's not annoying and high pitched. Pretty close to the same location on the scale. And so this mult out doesn't do anything at this point. And the only remaining patching that we have defeating the normal is LFO square out to run stop. And when I pull that out, it's gonna stop. And then we'll start it back up. Adjust the tempo. And change the swing. The swing's actually pretty nice on the synthesizer. So yeah, quick little video, first patch. Pretty happy with my investment. And presumably we're gonna have a long-lasting friendship with a lot of crazy adventures. And I'll actually read for you what was printed on the outside of the box, as well as the owner's manual on the first page. This is a really pretty cool Bob Moog quote. Maybe it's not the first page, it's the second page. It reads, "What artists need is an endless resource, full of rough edges and dimly lit nooks and crannies that one can explore as one sees fit." Dr. Robert Moog. Thank you, sir.